It's like, have we done this before? I feel like we've done this before.
A few times, yeah. I mean, some of us aren't golfing today. You know, some of us have to work.
I thought it was a special occasion, you know, episode 10. We made it to 10 episodes. You know, we're having a celebration and only 2 of us showed up. How about that?
It must be summertime. I mean, you know, I thought this was a weekly thing. You know, I put it in my calendar. You know me, I'm a corporate guy. I got a calendar. I throw this in the calendar every Wednesday. I'd love to be out golfing for sure.
Right?
No, nothing.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. I mean, episode 10, DVP pod. We're here. And last week, it was draft day in the NBA.
Yeah.
In the NHL. Can't really say that I care.
No. I mean, from what I understand, this is a really good NHL draft. I mean, it's like, or did I say NFL draft? I meant NHL draft. Yeah. Like they've got the big player at number 1 in Connor Bedard, who out here in Calgary, I was lucky enough to watch when the Regina St. Pat's came to town to play the Hitmen. So I checked out Bedard a couple of times. He's awesome. After that, I have no idea who these kids are, but apparently they're good.
Like, I can't say that I don't care completely because I think Bedard, much like Wemby, is just highly anticipated, can't miss prospect, which is always dope. And I think the allure for that was more the draft lottery as opposed to the actual draft. Because I feel like for the NBA and NHL, this time of year is more so we become more excited about free agency than we have about the actual draft. So we're in the silly season right now, but we can't go too far away from draft day, draft season without talking about, I don't know how to describe it because it wasn't
hold on. Before we get there, and I know where we're going, what did you think about the draft, about the production of the draft and the broadcast? The actual draft itself, what did you have some overall thoughts? Was there anything outside of what I'm sure we're going to get to that caught your eye?
I like the draft. I like that they try to make a whole spectacle of it, but I think they haven't gone, like they need to find the right combination still of analysts, right? So they have on ABC, there's 2, and I'm amazed too how many people don't realize there's 2 different broadcasts of the NBA draft. There's one on ABC and there's one on ESPN. The ABC one is just Stephen A. Smith, and I think it was Kevin Nagandi hosting with them, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And
Billy.
And of course. And basically that one's going to be, it wasn't following the draft like pick by pick. They would roll picks back on tape. They would have like feature interviews, not only with the player after they got drafted, but there were actual like sit down features for certain players as well to tell more of their story. And you get more of a well-rounded story, if that makes sense, for, let's say, the outside fan, not really the person that's casuals, right? And then ESPN is supposed to be the in-depth, we got all the answers, you know, hardcore basketball fan that you and I want to watch. But I feel like it falls short. And it's not a knock on the people on the panel per se, because I like JJ Redick.
Yep.
Jay Billis was dope. Obviously, he's a GOAT.
Yep.
I'm not the homegirl that was on, I'm not sure her name. I think she played college ball. I thought she was okay.
She was good. Yeah.
Yeah. And Malika's all right. But I just feel like that broadcast, I need to have a lot more just like, here's a player, here's a team they're going to, here's how it'll fit. Like more like just hardcore deep dive. What does this mean for this basketball team? And I don't think that we got enough of that. I think you kind of gloss over, you get the Jay Billis comparisons, you know, this is what this guy's good at, but it's just not as much in-depth basketball. What does this mean as it should be, especially when you have the counter broadcast to do the kind of gloss over joke. I don't know. And I think maybe ESPN's going through something right now, because I think there's about to be a bunch of layoffs, which, I don't even want to go there. But you could tell they're still having trouble figuring out like why were Perk and RJ on during the day, and then for the actual draft, those guys weren't on. I feel like the draft, if you had JJ Redick, RJ, Perk, and Jay Billis, I think that would be a much more entertaining panel, you know, to watch during the draft and give me jokes, insight, some fun, but I don't know.
Or even use those guys as that ABC broadcast is using those sit down interviews. Use guys like Perk and like Richard Jefferson to break out into like, okay, now we've got Perk and RJ to debate this pick. Was this the right pick? Did the Hornets make the right pick? And then use those segments. Now, the other thing that I was thinking that I couldn't help stop thinking about during the draft was, listen, I love that these kids get the opportunity to play professional basketball in the G League and in these. Where did the Thompson twins come from? G-Shock or something?
Overtime Elite, I think it was.
Overtime Elite. Like, it's great that these kids have their opportunity. And I hate to sound like an old man yelling at a cloud, but having these kids not play college basketball, even if it is for a year, we don't really get to know them the way that we did 10, 5, 15, 20 years ago. We don't have the relationship with these Thompson twins other than what we've seen on YouTube and what we've been reading in articles. So I find that, like, I love that idea of having the two broadcasts because I think the NFL does that. I mean, with the NFL draft, there's about 6 different ways you can watch the draft.
Yeah.
But with the NBA, I think that secondary screen of having the more human element to it would be way better if we had more relationships with these players through college basketball.
But maybe that's what it's for, right? To also give the story of the Thompson twins, and you get all the photos of, their dad showing the videos from when they were kids and, when they were much younger, right? And how they developed together coming up and now having them get drafted right after the other. Like, that's all pretty cool. I just mean, like, I need just a full-on, in-depth, hey, this is what Orlando needs. Orlando should have drafted blank, but instead they took this guy. And I feel like the NBA draft has gone, and maybe this is just draft in general, because NFL, I don't think they do this either. But I remember the days of, this pick was really bad. This was a terrible pick. This guy's not that good. He needs to whatever. And I feel like we've gone so far away from that
anymore.
There needs to be some middle ground, though. And I get it. It doesn't need to be like we grew up on Stephen A. Smith saying this guy sucks. He needs to do whatever, which was entertaining and funny. And this was a terrible pick and all that. I'm not saying it's got to go that far, but I do need something in the middle. Right. And I feel like I didn't learn enough about these guys getting drafted. And you mentioned it, without college basketball, without having March Madness. Like, I was excited the Raptors signed with their second.
They got the kid out of Kansas State who I love.
Mr. New York City. Right.
Dude,
but like Marquise Noel. But that's because we got to enjoy and watch the run in college in the NCAA tournament, right? In March Madness. And you have a little bit of a point of reference to be like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. I know that he's not scared of the big moment. I know that he wants to smoke. I know that he's a point guard, old school, set
New York
it up.
City.
Killa Cam might be courtside at the Raps games, right? Like, I feel like that part is dope. But without, like, look at the way the draft went, right? Wemby not playing college basketball. You had Brandon Miller, who obviously did play college basketball, but most of the talk about Brandon Miller had nothing to do with his on-play court.
Yeah.
Right. So you have that. Then you have the Thompsons. Oh, no, sorry. You had Scoot also not playing college basketball.
Yep.
Then you had the Thompson twins, no college basketball. And it's different. And I don't know how this changes or how it can change or if it will ever change. But I do know that it used to be a lot better.
Yeah.
Right. We used to have a lot more relationship. And if we don't have that with college basketball, then they have to do a better job on the broadcast telling me more about why Scoot Henderson should have went too, which I don't think that
and why the Hornets messed this up.
Yeah.
The other thing is this is like a through line, not just throughout sports TV, but TV in general, is that everybody wants to reinvent the wheel. Everybody wants to do the biggest, baddest, newest, craziest thing. You know what? The draft was great 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Why do we have to change it? Like, the presentation of the draft was great. Yeah. We loved it. I mean, it was quick and dirty. It was, here's the highlights of the kid in college or wherever he played in high school. here's Billis breaking down why it's a good fit or a bad fit for this team. And then here's a panel to discuss whether this is the right move for the future of this franchise. You know, like, you don't need to give me all the bells and whistles. You don't need to keep reinventing the wheel of something that's simple, cheap, and enjoyable.
Yeah. So I know what we're both going to talk about just in terms of the biggest pick of the draft. But before we get to Gradey, was there anything else that stood out to you the most just from the NBA draft?
The Hornets. Like, what are you doing? what are you doing? The whole journey of them having this second pick. Mm-hmm. And obviously they were going to pick Miller the whole time. I don't think that this was much of a back and forth, but they could have done what the Celtics did a couple of years ago with Tatum. They had their guy. They were in too. They could have been shopping that. Why weren't they on the phone with Portland?
Exactly.
It makes no sense. And then for a couple of days before, to have that story come out from Shams, who may or may not be tinkering with the betting markets by his reporting, but that story coming out a couple of days before, perplexing to me when you finally go with Miller. That was the craziest thing. Now, who knows? I do like Miller. I think with that kind of size and that kind of shooting, that's pretty much a can't miss prospect. I love Scoot as well. Haven't seen a lot of his games, but from what I understand, he is a beast and just a guy who does not quit. And I loved his suit. I loved the grill going on. It was great. Like, he's a guy who I'd want on my team. So I don't know in the long run if there's going to be, like, you could tell me that Brandon Miller is going to be an all-star. You could tell me that Scoot's going to be an all-star. Sure. Mm-hmm. So that was but just the way that the Hornets mishandled them having the second pick, they could have gotten so much.
It tells you a lot about what teams value, right? So Scoot Henderson, to me, everything that you hear about Scoot Henderson is he could be a leader of your team, right? Like, he can be a face of your franchise.
A culture setter.
Yes. Whereas Brandon Miller, he might be more go with the flow, but that also tells me that Charlotte thinks that LaMelo is their face of the franchise, their team leader. Like,
or they have a culture already that they're comfortable with, which is crazy to me because they had the number 2 pick and they're a garbage fire and they had a player. I don't even want to get into the Miles thing, but like,
so maybe they didn't trade down with Portland because Portland also liked Brandon Miller. Like, I don't know. Who knows what happened there, but no doubt about it, this whole entire season will be based off the fact of what happens between Scoot Henderson and Brandon Miller, because everyone will be focused in on, did the Hornets mess this up? And especially with what's going to go down with Portland, because we anticipate Dame's out, right? Like, I don't want to even, I'm tired of talking about Dame.
Me too. I am too, because you're going to see what he goes for and it's going to piss you off and he's going to go to the fucking Heat and it's going to be a bummer. And that's it. And who knows if he'll be good? He's on the other side of 30, man.
I'm just over it all. Like, why are you doing live streams and playing Welcome to Miami in the background? And then you have to make a statement the next day, or your agent has to make a statement that it was an accident. And it's like, really? This is what we're doing right now? Like, as much as I love the NBA drama, I love the fuckery that goes on in the NBA. Like, this is a little bit too much. Like, just
a little bit too much.
Miss me with all this. It's too much. So I'm hoping that Dame gets traded, though, so that Scoot gets his chance to shine and just do everything that Scoot Henderson has. Yeah, and you're talking about Scoot. The other part that doesn't make sense to me is okay, so Scoot, first off, he's younger. We know that he did the 2 years at the G League, which is cool, whatever, but the pedigree, right? Like, this is a kid that played up the entire way through his youth basketball program. And what was Windhorst saying? Like, his mom had to bring his ID to like prove his age at every single tournament, just to show like, oh, no, this is how old he actually is. Like, this is a kid that is bred for this moment. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago, the fact that my guy's been working out with Rod Strickland, like NBA workouts for the longest time. The fact that his shooting trainer is Steph Curry's shooting trainer. I was listening to him on a pod with, I think it was Basketball Illuminati. They had on the shooting trainer that is Scoot Henderson's shooting coach, who's also Steph Curry's shooting coach. I just feel like there's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good shooting coach to have, right? And they just talked about the drills, and he talked about how there's one drill that they do with Steph, and he did it with Scoot, and the whole purpose of the drill is to just make you quit. Right? Like it's just running up and down, bombing threes, and it's a run. And the whole purpose, he's like, you do it at one level and then you do it the next level. And the whole point is just to make you quit. And he's like, Scoot didn't quit. And he's like, okay. And that could all be posturing. That could all be whatever. But where are those stories about Brandon Miller?
No.
Right? Like that's all I'm saying. So I don't know. All these people can't be wrong. All this work in the lab can't be wrong. I just can't wait to see it. But we spent enough time pretending as if there's other things that caught the interest of the NBA draft that night. But my Twitter feed was on fuego fire with all the jokes. And I will say,
full of dick.
I'm going to start here. Right before the pick was made, I said, I don't want the Toronto Raptors to take Gradey Dick. I tweeted it out. Please, anybody but Gradey Dick.
I don't. And
I will say this. I'm going to tell you this. It's not because of Gradey Dick. It's because I knew exactly what was going to come after it. See, already. See, this is ridiculous.
It's the best. It's honestly like,
this is terrible. But follow me. Everything that was going to come after this, I did it again. What is happening? Everything that would follow the pick, right, was going to be so annoying because people are just excited about his name. If his name was Gradey Washington, nobody would have cared about the pick. Just would have been like, oh, cool. Raptors got a really good shooter. Like, that's what they need. They filled a need. But everyone was excited because they took this guy, and now there's going to be so much focus. The Raptors were the butt of all the jokes. He was the butt of all the jokes because of his TikTok dancing and because of his name. And now we got to deal with this for a full year. We're going to have all the stupid bros trying to ironically buy his jersey and rock it in the streets.
100%. Like 100% getting a Dick jersey. 100%. But here's the thing. If his name was Gradey Washington, would you be happier about this pick than you were on draft night?
No. And the reason is, and this is what
I want to talk about. Because
okay, so let's move away from the jokes. We got time for the jokes. Yeah. We got time for the jokes, the TikToks, all that stuff. The real reason why I'm not on board with this pick is more so just because it falls in line with, I want to say, the bad stretch the Raptors front office has been on for the last 2 years.
How though?
Because you're in the lottery and you're picking for need. If you're in the lottery picking for need, you're picking like you're one piece away. Like you feel like everything's fine. Like I don't think that Gradey Dick was the best player available, in my humble opinion. I think if you're the Toronto Raptors and you have trouble landing A+ level talent because you can't really trade for it, you got to like take risks, like, hoping Kawhi Leonard's injury might not be as bad as it was, and you're going to rehabilitate that. I take Cam Whitmore, right? Because I'm taking the risk.
You can't do that.
Why not?
Because this guy has medicals that saw him drop all the way to 25 or whatever.
You got to take the chance if you're the Toronto Raptors.
No, you cannot waste that pick. You have a top 15 pick. You can't waste it on a guy who may not play in the NBA.
Speaking of a guy who may not play in the NBA, who is Gradey playing over? It's not OG. It's not Gary Trent Jr. It's not Scotty Barnes. It's not Pascal. He's not a guard. The Raptors need guard play. Gradey Dick is not going to play 2 guard in the NBA. That is not a thing that's going to happen. Who is he guarding? Who's the guards that you think Gradey is guarding in the NBA?
Here's the thing. The players that you just named, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, and Scotty Barnes, and even Gary Trent Jr. aren't terrible defenders. In fact, some of them are very, very good defenders, bordering on great defenders. That means that you can have a guy out there who fills up what you were lacking all year. Fuck that. 3 years. You haven't had any outside shooting, consistent outside shooting. You don't take enough. You don't make enough. So you have a kid who's in the lottery who had a phenomenal season at a big time college program. This is not a kid coming from Missouri State. This is a big time get for the Raptors. I know that
Did you think he was the best player available?
Yes, 100%.
100%.
I think that the Orlando Magic really fucked up. I think that he would have been even a better fit there than he would for the Raptors. But if you look at the teams that need what Gradey Dick can do, it's the Raptors, man.
I just think that the Raptors
and I understand what you're talking about this is the way that this franchise has been going the last couple of years isn't necessarily successful, but the front office, to their detriment or to their whatever, have the blinders on. Okay. We made it to the play-in game. We made it to the playoffs a year before. We're a couple years removed from a championship. We have pieces. Hey, if we can turn this stat around, which is extremely important in the NBA in terms of 3-point shooting, maybe we win that game against Chicago and we make it to the 8th seed. Okay. And that's what I think they see in Gradey Dick. And you can't tell me that that's not what he's going to provide. You can tell me he's not a great defender. Sure. You know what? There are awesome shooters who are all-stars who are shitty defenders. If that's what you're basing the success of this pick on, you're going to talk yourself into a hole every time. But you can't deny that what he on paper provides is what the Raptors desperately need.
I agree with that, but I just feel like you could have been able to get shooting from other places with players that might have more in their bag than just being and he's an elite shooter. He's the best shooter in the draft. I get that. But like Jordan Hawkins he's second, or he might be just as close. You know what I mean? But I feel like there's more to his game than Gradey's game. I would have taken Keontae George. I feel like Keontae George. You need guard play. You need guard play. Guards who can get busy and get buckets. You can't just have
guys who need the ball in their hands. Pascal needs the ball in his hands. Scotty needs the ball in his hands. Okay, I
agree with that.
The nice thing about Gradey Dick in this system is that what he's really good at.
We don't know what this system is.
But he doesn't need the ball in his hands. He doesn't need the bag. He makes the quick decision. The ball is not in his hands for very long. He's not a ball stopper. He's going to shoot it or he's going to give it up. And that's what you need right now.
So again, going back to my initial point as to why I'm not even so mad at the pick of Gradey, I'm more mad at this whole thought process of, well, this is what the Raptors need. It's like, no. The Raptors need just good players, period. Right?
But
like,
he's a good player.
Hold on. No, you need more than just like he's a good shooter, so this is going to fill a need because we don't have shooters. You need to just be trying to get the top player, and your risk of doing that. I just think there were better players on the board. I think Kobe Buffkin was a better player than listen, it's just my opinion. I feel like the hole in the Raptors lineup is guards, right? Guards.
It's about
not enough guards on their team.
Well, it's about to be. It's definitely about to be because it looks like Fred's out. And the nightmare
I want to say here though, because again, the biggest problem for this Raptors team is this whole mentality that you're just a piece away, or like, oh, you're just plugging this hole and everything's going to be fine. No, the Washington Wizards, who are actively trying to lose the whole second half of the season, were only 6 games behind the Raptors. 6. And that includes they played the Raptors like 3 games down the stretch of the season last year where they were punting the season. They just blew up their whole team. The Raptors are like, let's run it back. Don't understand that. The Raptors are trying to compare themselves to the Miami Heat, who are trying to get Dame Lillard. And the Raptors are like, let's run it back. That's my bigger beef with this whole thing of getting Gradey and thinking, okay, well, with the pieces that we have, this is how he fits. Who cares about how this team fits? You lost in the play-in to the Chicago Bulls. Like, what are we talking about right now? Right? And to think that this is all just Nick Nurse's fault, to me, is so unfair. And I understand the gong show that Nick Nurse proved to be at the end of the season last year, and I get all that. I understand all that. But these pieces just don't fit. You're not going to be able to go forward with Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam, and OG Anunoby. They all take up and occupy the same place and all want to occupy the same touches, and they play the same style of game. It's just not going to work.
But the name that you didn't mention there was Gradey Dick. He does not need the ball. He does not need to be one of those guys that stops the basketball.
So do we think that the Raptors having a bad season? Hold on. The Raptors having a bad season, right? They had a bad season last year. You get into the lottery, and now maybe you get a rotation guy that maybe can prove to be your like what, 8th guy, 9th guy off the bench.
I think you brought up the Miami Heat. You brought up the Miami Heat, and you talk about guys like
starting on the Raptors.
He will start on the Raptors.
What are you?
Maybe not this season. No. Maybe not this season. He'll start for the Raptors. Just with the way the basketball is played now, you need a guy like. Okay, the most important number is 33.5%. That is what the Toronto Raptors shot from 3-point last year. Mm-hmm. That's unacceptable. That's not going to get you anywhere. Okay,
I'm gonna say
a guy who can turn that number around with attempts and makes, because he, again, you put up Buffkin, you put up Hawkins, you put up George, and you put up Dick. I'm taking Dick. You know why? Because he can knock down, shoot it. Sure, those other guys have guard play, but right now I need a guy who can take and make with confidence.
I would have
taken Cam Whitmore. And the one thing, we'll get into it. We'll get into it with the jokes and the TikTok. The one thing this kid is not lacking is confidence.
Yeah,
that's what I like about it. That's what I like about it. You can talk about doing the dancing, but you know what? He had all those kids on Kansas dancing in those TikToks. He had all those kids playing for USA basketball dancing in the TikToks. You know what that shows me? That shows me this kid has confidence and people like him.
I would have taken Cam. I'm just saying, if you're the Raptors, you need to take chances.
You would have been fired.
You need to take chances.
Talk about take chances.
You took Cam, hold on. If you think if the Raptors took Cam over Gradey, this would have been some abomination of the Raptors in the lottery. Like in the lottery, and you get like, I'll put it to you like this. If Gradey ends up starting and playing meaningful minutes for the Raptors, this Raptors team is not good.
The fact that he fell all the way to the 25th shows me that was it 20? Shows me you could not draft him where he went, because the medical is obviously awful.
They said that is his coach sewered him. They said his college coach sewered him.
You know, we didn't have Jay Wright. You know, Jay Wright wouldn't have done that shit.
Jay Wright knows. Hold on, Jay Wright knows the game. As a college coach, you can't sewer NBA prospects. No, that's just because then other kids won't want to go to your team.
But I think no. I think it had way more to do with the medical. Like Cam Whitmore's an amazing. Cool,
I get
player.
that. Last check, the Raptors have a great medical staff. No.
Okay, so what are you gonna do? Like fucking give him the Wolverine?
Last I heard, Kawhi had bad medicals, and the Raptors brought him in and figured it out, came up with the plan, was able to work it out. I'm just saying that you're the Toronto Raptors. You struggle to get high-level talent. You have this opportunity where you're in the lottery. I'm going to try to swing for the fence rather than take someone who, in my humble opinion, might be like your 8th man at some point. And if he ends up being more than your 8th man, your team is not that good.
Gradey Dick's going to be he's got the kind of game that sticks around in the NBA too, man. Like,
maybe
this is the player that you need in the NBA. You need somebody you can take and make.
It took a lot of injuries. It took a lot of injuries for Duncan Robinson to get minutes this season.
Who would you take? Who would you take in a 3-point? Would you take the field with the Raptors players? Would you take the field, or would you take Gradey Dick in a 3-point shooting contest?
Listen, he is an elite shooter. I get that. Now,
that's why he will be playing. That's why he will be playing minutes.
Hey, we shall see. And it all starts with Summer League. Summer League will be cool. It'll be cool to see.
Wemby.
I'm just saying that
I want to see Wemby in Summer
all of this talk right now that we're having about Gradey is more so based off the fun that people will have with because the Twitter jokes.
I would say not.
Twitter jokes are hilarious.
Not for you and me, because we talked on draft night, because this is way more of a basketball conversation, in my opinion. Here's the thing. Here's my dick take. I like it. I like it.
Okay.
I like it. I think he's going to be a fan favorite. I like the TikTok.
Of course he's going to be. We know why he's going to be a fan favorite in Toronto. He's white. His last name's Dick. There's jokes all over the place. And he's going to be funny on TikTok and social media. Obviously, he's going to be a fan favorite. My thing is that he's more likely to become the next Bruno than he is to become the next, I don't know, who's like the fan favorite next DeMar DeRozan. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, Well, yes,
maybe not DeMar. Scotty Barnes.
Different.
I don't know. Who was the last like Mo Pete? I don't know. Who's a fan
I would say
favorite
there you go.
Like,
I would say that's a good one. I would say he's definitely got the potential to be a Mo Pete for the Raptors.
Okay.
That's a great cool, call. Man. That's a great call.
Man. I just need
in personality. I really think so.
I just need to understand the logic behind the Celtics making the conference finals the last 2 years and being like, we need to change this up. The Miami Heat being in the NBA finals and being like, you know what? We probably should get Dame Lillard.
And fucking
no, but I'm saying they're like, we need to make some changes. And the Raptors are like, we just made the play-in. We blew a 17-point lead in the play-in game. You know what, though? Let's run it back. But we're gonna find out what happens because I've been saying I think Fred's coming back. He's definitely coming back.
From what I just read, Houston's making him a giant offer right now.
I think Houston is doing the same thing for Fred that they did for James Harden, right? Just providing leverage so that the bag remains intact with the team that you're already with.
You're still believing that Fred stays.
Yeah. Yep, the Raptors are going to give Fred his $30 million a year. Listen, the Raptors front office knows how important Fred is to their locker room. They know that if Fred leaves, who's the leader of that locker room? It's not Pascal Siakam.
Scotty and Gradey.
It's not Scotty Barnes and your man's Gradey. It's not OG. I don't really talk because I'm too cool for school. Like who's the leader in that locker room? They know that they need Fred VanVleet, the intangibles that we don't really know about because we're not in the room. The ability to go stand in front of the media and take the heat when you're having the worst season possible, when you came in with expectations and you have to stand in front of the media every day. Those things matter. And Fred did that on top of being grinded into the ground by Nick Nurse.
Right? The case for the Raptors makes sense.
The case for the Raptors is also.
What about the case for Fred?
We should have traded him.
What about the case for Fred? Why would he care about?
Because I'd rather stay in Toronto with my guy Pascal than go to Houston and play with all these kids.
If they're offering the same amount of money, you're saying he's going to stay in Toronto because of the friendship that he has with Pascal Siakam.
And they're going to give him the $30 million that he wants.
Yeah, but Houston's going to give him the $30 million that he wants.
Yeah, but I'd rather stay with the devil you know than the devil you don't.
Now, there was an interesting article that came out a couple of weeks ago that old Toronto Blue Jays maybe brought up before some sort of...
I saw that. I don't really know the ins and outs
in terms of unpaid taxes. And I hate to be this guy of... Hey, did you know that Texas doesn't have state tax? But that $30 million per season is a lot more in Houston than it is in Toronto.
Yeah, no, I get it. I understand all that. I still think that Freddie is going to stay because the Raptors want him to stay. And I also think that they will look like absolute clowns if they didn't trade him at the deadline when they could have gotten something for him. And then you let him walk in free agency for nothing. After you got nothing basically from all your main pieces from your championship run, you got nothing for, except for Kyle Lowry. You were able to get Precious in that deal. But other than that, your whole championship run came and went, and you didn't get much. Like you traded Norm, you got Gary Trent Jr., so you still got that. But like Kawhi, you didn't get anything for him on the way out. Serge, you didn't get anything for him on the way out. Marc Gasol, you got nothing for him on the way out. Like key pieces to your squad, all gone for nothing. So I don't know if that happens with Fred as well. It's not really a good look. That's bad roster management. Like think about how badly you fumbled the bag if Fred VanVleet walks away for nothing at a trade deadline when you saw the Washington Wizards tank and you're seeing them regroup right now. You saw the Portland Trailblazers end up with Scoot Henderson, right? Like, and you're the Raptors and you're like, we traded away a first round pick. That's the other reason they're not letting Fred go. They don't have their first round pick next year. So they have to try to be good this year. They can't try to bank on some random free agent point guard. They just can't. Can't do it.
Might happen.
I just got a
I'm
couple.
not quite confident.
I got a couple funny things I want to ask you about. And while we're talking about rumors, I don't know who dropped that rumor that you're talking about in terms of Fred VanVleet and what's going to happen. But
Michael Grange.
It's Michael Grange. Shouts to Michael Grange.
Yeah.
I do want to say this though. There is a new insider, NBA insider, that we need to start paying attention to. His name is Cameron. We have yet to have heard of what happened between Draymond Green and Jordan Poole. Cameron went on his show, It Is What It Is, with Mason Betha. And he discussed what Jordan Poole said to Draymond. Have you seen this?
I haven't seen this clip. I always click on the Cameron Mace clips whenever they pop up.
I don't know if I can actually play. I don't want to actually play this on the pod because I don't know how the copyright works with other online mediums. So I'll just read the clip. But basically, Draymond said that Cameron said through his sources, what he's heard, what Jordan Poole said to Draymond Green during that practice before he got punched out. Because Jordan Poole went to Michigan, Draymond went to Michigan State.
Yeah.
Jordan Poole was telling him, I fucked more bitches at Michigan State than you did. Right. Then he said they're doing suicides or whatever. And he's talking shit to Draymond, telling him, oh, don't worry, you'll be in Sacramento next year. Draymond's taking that a little personal. Then he says, why is your handle Money Green? If you're broke, you're not getting another contract here. And supposedly that's what really got to Draymond at that level. And then that's what led to Draymond knocking out Jordan Poole. I'm going to ask you this question. With this context of the trash talk, does it alter your opinion of Draymond knocking out Jordan Poole at all?
I mean,
and I'm saying that because I don't know what your initial take was on that. But
I mean, they're good burns. They're sick burns. And I thought Dre was supposed to be a pretty good talker.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't really fit.
You think it wasn't enough to get knocked out?
No.
But here's my question I ask everybody. If you're talking shit to someone else, do you get to decide how they react to your shit talk?
No, you don't. And it's like, there's, what is it? The
graph, fuck around and find out.
The scorpion on the frog. It's like, have you heard that one? Like
yes.
The frog is going over the river with the scorpion on its back and he stabs him and he's like, well, what the fuck did you think? I'm a scorpion. But here's the thing. Who has Draymond punched in the face before?
Well, that we know of. We don't know what happens. Right. What else has happened in because the biggest mystery to me is still, how did that tape get out? That's this thing that I still want to know, because we hear all the NBA players that you heard talk about this, the former players who are analysts now, talked about how often stuff like this happened and we had no idea about it because it all stayed in-house.
Right.
So somehow we found out about this. Cool. I think personally, to me, it made me laugh because clearly, Draymond is going to feel some type of way about Jordan Poole, of all people, trying to tell him you're going to be in Sacramento
NBA champion. The NBA champion, Jordan Poole, right there.
But like, if you're Draymond, you're like, oh, I get the shit talking. I understand that. But like, you can't talk to me like I am this. Me, Steph and Clay, Iggy, like I am this. You ain't talking to me like that. Who are you? You just got here.
Here's what it says to me. It's that the fucking more bitches in East Lansing than you did, the Sacramento part of it, or the being broke. One of those, or maybe a combination of all three, really hit Draymond deep.
Of course.
Really touched a nerve.
Hold on.
So
Jordan
which one
Poole
is it? Did he think
he's going to be in Sacramento next year?
You're
going to go to Washington next year, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's the other part. Remember, Draymond did not get suspended for this.
No, and in fact, Draymond is going to get another contract from the Warriors.
Exactly. Right? So all of this, like, I understand why I can't say I understand why, because my initial take from the beginning was fuck around and find out. Like, you could talk trash to someone, but you don't get to decide how they respond to you. And then also, Jordan Poole, your mistake was putting your hands on someone and then not being ready for their response, because Draymond comes in his face, Jordan Poole pushes him away, right? And then he got decked. So yeah, shouts to Cameron for breaking that down.
I'm just happy that Killer Cam's like kind of back in it. again. Like, it had been a couple of years since we heard from Killa.
Sticking with the breaking of news, what about players breaking their own news? Just because we found out that Kevin Durant ended up in a Twitter Spaces that was debating whether or not Kevin Durant was top 5 in the NBA. What do you make of this?
The reply champ, man, he's online. He's habitually online. And that's his thing. Hey, that's his thing. We just all got to realize it.
Yeah, I got you. Kevin Durant, I'm not mad at him. If that's what makes him happy, not mad at KD for that at all. And as we continue to just rifle through some headlines in the NBA or culture, there's a big show that's, I mean, I don't know how big it is.
We don't have the others here, but we should talk about the Idol.
We're going to touch on it. And I mean, we'll talk about it next week when the finale airs, because magically now
they took an episode out.
How bad does a show have to be
to
go from, it's going to be 8 episodes. Then they're like, no, we're going to make it 6. And then while it's airing, they're like, actually, it's just going to be 5. And next week's the finale. It's like, what? Then like, I read the article first, then I actually watched episode 4 and I'm like, what is like, how did this make it to air? Like, it has to just be because it's the weekend, right? That's it.
Right.
Just because
they're using it. That's his house is what I learned.
Oh,
they're just using his house.
I didn't know that.
So, I mean, he's paying for it. So fuck it. Put it on TV. Here's the thing. Weekend can't act, man. Abel's got to stick to the singing.
I want to know. Here's my question. I asked it last week, but I wonder if there are scenes that were shot from the original version that still remain.
Oh yeah,
in the
you can tell. You can tell. There's 2 different shows going on.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, like, there's certain things where I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense, and then there's other things like when my guy's getting shocked, I'm like, okay, there's no need for this. Like, absolutely no need for this. That studio scene with Mike Dean, where my guy's basically like just groping her in the studio so she can like moan on the track in front of everyone watching. I'm like, what? Like, what are we doing here? And then all of a sudden her ex-boyfriend just pops up and I'm like, was there a mention of this ex-boyfriend at any other point of the show?
No. And now he's going to be the crux of what happens in the next. This is a guy that you introduced in the last 10 minutes of this episode.
No, but it was even more random than that, right? Because the big like reveal, which again, there's a good element of a show here where the backup dancer ends up stealing her song, right?
Yeah.
And then when that big reveal comes, all that happens after that is she just texts her ex-boyfriend to come over. And then all of a sudden the weekend's like, all right. And he's like crying and all sad and doing shots and like, I don't know.
I don't know how they're going to wrap this thing up in the next episode, but I'm sure it'll be a train wreck and it'll be great.
And you know what? We'll be right back here to discuss it. Will it just be the 2 of us?
Hey,
who knows?
I don't have a tea time next week at this time. Do you? Fuck out of here.
Webby, man, I appreciate you, my dude.
Yeah, ordering my dick jersey now, by the way. Should I go with the black or the red?
I still think that we should put it out on social media. Show us your dick jerseys.